Marcus Hayes stood at the huge glass window of his office on the 40th floor. The city lights spread out below him like stars. At 42 years old, he had built one of the biggest tech companies in America. Hayes Industries made satellites, space rockets, and secret defense equipment for the government. His latest project was something that could change everything, a machine that could send messages faster than light across space. Ruby Washington walked quietly into the office carrying a silver tray with coffee. She had worked in Marcus's house for 8 years. At 38, she was smart and careful. Most people saw her as just the housekeeper, but Ruby had secrets of her own. Before working for Marcus, she spent 12 years in military intelligence. She spoke 6 languages and could spot danger from miles away. "Your coffee, Mr. Hayes," Ruby said, setting the cup on his desk. "Thanks, Ruby. You're staying late again." Marcus turned from the window. His brown hair was messy from running his hands through it all day. Dark circles showed under his green eyes. "The launch is next week." "I know you're worried," Ruby said. She had watched Marcus work himself to exhaustion for months preparing the faster-than-light communication array. Marcus nodded. 5 years of work comes down to next Tuesday. If this works, we'll be able to talk to anyone, anywhere in space, instantly. No more waiting years for messages to travel between planets. Ruby smiled. She had heard him practice this speech many times. "Your wife called. She'll be home late again tonight, another art gallery meeting." Something flashed across Marcus's face, too quick to catch, but Ruby noticed everything. Right. The Russian art collection she's importing. Ruby picked up the empty plates from lunch and headed toward the door. As she walked through the hallway, she heard a voice coming from the library. The door was slightly open. She recognized Natasha's voice, but something was wrong. Natasha was speaking in what sounded like Russian, but Ruby's trained ear caught something odd. Ruby stopped and listened carefully. She had learned Russian during her military days when she worked on intelligence operations in Eastern Europe. But what Natasha was saying didn't make complete sense. The words were Russian, but the way they fit together was strange. "The signal must not reach them," Natasha said in Russian. "The launch date is confirmed for Tuesday at noon. The sabotage must happen before the array goes online." Ruby felt her heart beat faster. She pressed closer to the door. "Yes, I understand. The coordinates," Natasha continued. "The electromagnetic pulse will destroy the main transmitter. Humans must not be allowed to broadcast beyond their system." Ruby's blood went cold. This wasn't about art galleries or Russian business contacts. This was about destroying Marcus's life work. But why would Natasha want to stop the communication array? And what did she mean by humans must not be allowed? The phone call ended suddenly. Ruby heard footsteps coming toward the door. She quickly moved away and pretended to dust a picture frame on the wall. Natasha Hayes appeared in the doorway. She was beautiful in a cold way, with perfect blonde hair and blue eyes that never seemed to show real emotion. At 35, she looked like she could be a model. She had married Marcus 5 years ago after meeting him at a technology conference in Moscow. "Oh, Ruby, I didn't know you were still here," Natasha said. Her voice was smooth and controlled. "Just finishing the cleaning, Mrs. Hayes. Mr. Marcus is still working in his office." Natasha nodded and walked toward the stairs. Ruby watched her, noticing how Natasha moved too smoothly, like she was floating instead of walking normally. Ruby went back to the kitchen, but her mind was racing. She had to tell Marcus what she heard, but how could she explain without revealing her own background? Marcus didn't know about her military past. As far as he knew, she was just a housekeeper who needed the job. Later that evening, Marcus came home looking exhausted. Natasha was already asleep, claiming she had a headache. Marcus sat in his study with a glass of whiskey, going over papers for the launch. Ruby brought him a late dinner. "Mr. Marcus, can I ask you something?" "Sure, Ruby. What's on your mind?" Ruby chose her words carefully. "Has Mrs. Natasha seemed different lately? More phone calls, more time away from home?" Marcus looked up from his papers. "She's been busy with her art business. Why do you ask?" "I just worry about you. You're working so hard on this space project, and you need people around you who support what you're doing." Marcus set down his Natasha has always been supportive. She may not understand the technical details, but she believes in the work. Ruby wanted to tell him everything, but she knew he wouldn't believe her. Marcus loved his wife. He had shown Ruby pictures from their wedding, talked about how lucky he felt to find someone who understood his dreams. Of course, Mr. Marcus, I didn't mean anything by it. That night, Ruby lay in her small room above the garage, staring at the ceiling. She kept thinking about Natasha's phone call. The way she had spoken about coordinates and electromagnetic pulses sounded military. And what did she mean about humans not being allowed to broadcast beyond their system? Ruby had learned to trust her instincts during her years in intelligence. Something was very wrong with Natasha Hayes, but proving it would be dangerous. If Natasha really was planning to sabotage the communication array, she might be working with foreign agents or terrorists. The next morning, Ruby watched Natasha carefully during breakfast. Marcus ate quickly, eager to get to the office for final launch preparations. Natasha smiled and wished him luck, kissing his cheek as he left. But Ruby noticed that Natasha's smile disappeared the moment Marcus was out of sight. After Marcus left, Natasha made another phone call. This time, Ruby was ready. She quietly moved closer to listen. "The target suspects nothing," Natasha said in the strange Russian. "The device will be planted tonight. Tuesday's launch will fail, and the human communication project will be set back by years." Ruby's hands shook as she wrote down what she heard. She had to find a way to warn Marcus, even if it meant revealing her own secrets. The communication array was more than just Marcus's business project. If it worked, it could change humanity's future in space. But first, she needed to figure out exactly who Natasha really was, and why she wanted to stop humans from talking to the stars. Ruby spent the whole night thinking about what to do. She had heard Natasha planning to destroy the communication array, but how could she tell Marcus without sounding crazy? She was just the housekeeper. He would never believe that his beautiful wife was some kind of saboteur. The next morning, Marcus came down for breakfast looking worried. Dark bags hung under his eyes. The launch was only 4 days away, and the pressure was getting to him. "Good morning, Mr. Marcus," Ruby said, pouring his coffee. "You didn't sleep well again." "Too much on my mind," Marcus said, stirring sugar into his cup. "The final tests are today. If anything goes wrong now, we'll have to delay the launch for months." Ruby saw her chance. "Speaking of things going wrong, I've been hearing some concerning phone calls lately." Marcus looked up from his newspaper. "What kind of phone calls?" Ruby's heart pounded. She had to be careful. "Mrs. Natasha has been having a lot of private conversations, late at night, early in the morning. She speaks very quietly, like she doesn't want anyone to hear." "Ruby, my wife has her own business. She deals with art dealers and collectors all over the world. Different time zones mean odd hours for calls." "I know, Mr. Marcus. But some of the things I've heard—" Ruby paused, trying to find the right words. "They don't sound like art business." Marcus set down his coffee cup harder than necessary. "What exactly are you trying to say?" Ruby took a deep breath. "I think someone might be trying to hurt your project, and I think they might be using someone close to you to do it." Marcus stared at her for a long moment. "Ruby, I appreciate your concern, but you're talking about my wife. Natasha has supported this project from the beginning. She may not understand the science, but she believes in what I'm doing. What if I told you I understood what she was saying in those phone calls?" "You mean the Russian?" "Ruby, you don't speak Russian." This was the moment Ruby had been dreading. She had kept her past secret for 8 years. But Marcus's life work was in danger, and maybe much more than that. "Actually, Mr. Marcus, I do speak Russian. I also speak German, French, Arabic, Spanish, and Mandarin." Marcus put down his newspaper completely. "Ruby, you're a housekeeper. How do you know 6 languages?" "Before I worked for you, I had a different job. I worked for the government. Military. Intelligence." The words hung in the air between them. Marcus stared at her like he was seeing her for the first time. "You're telling me that my housekeeper is a former spy?" "I was an intelligence analyst and translator, 12 years in the service, before I decided I wanted a quieter life, but I never forgot my training." Marcus leaned back in his chair. Why didn't you ever tell me this? Would you have hired me if you knew? Most people don't want former intelligence officers cleaning their houses and knowing all their private business. Marcus had to admit she was right. So what exactly did you hear Natasha saying? Ruby pulled out the notes she had written. She talked about sabotage. She mentioned electromagnetic pulses and destroying transmitters. She said the launch must fail and that humans must not be allowed to broadcast beyond their system. Beyond their system? That's a strange way to put it. That's what caught my attention too. She also mentioned coordinates and timing that match. Your launch schedule exactly. Marcus was quiet for a long time. Ruby watched his face as he processed what she was telling him. She could see him fighting between his love for his wife and the growing doubts in his mind. There has to be an explanation, Marcus said finally. Maybe she was talking about a movie script or a book she's reading. Mr. Marcus, she was giving someone technical details about your facility. She knew about the main transmitter location and the exact launch time. That information isn't public. Marcus stood up and started pacing around the kitchen. Even if what you're saying is true, how would Natasha have access to classified information about my project? She lives in your house. She sees your papers, overhears your phone calls, knows your schedule. You've probably told her things without thinking about it. But why would she want to sabotage the array? It makes no sense. Ruby had been thinking about this all night. I don't know yet, but I think we need to find out who she was really talking to and why they want to stop your communication system. Marcus stopped pacing and looked directly at Ruby. If you're right about this, then I've been living with a traitor for 5 years. I hope I'm wrong, Mr. Marcus, but my instincts kept me alive for 12 years in intelligence work. Something is very wrong here. Just then, they heard footsteps on the stairs. Natasha appeared in her silk robe, looking perfect as always. Good morning, darling, she said, kissing Marcus on the cheek. You're up early again. Final preparations for the launch, Marcus said. Ruby noticed that his voice sounded different, more careful. I'm so proud of you, Natasha said. This project will make you famous around the world. Ruby watched Natasha's face as she spoke. The words sounded right, but something about her expression seemed false, like she was acting in a play. Ruby was just telling me about some phone calls she's been overhearing, Marcus said. Ruby's heart jumped. She hadn't expected him to bring it up so directly. Natasha's smile never changed, but Ruby saw her eyes get harder. Oh? What kind of phone calls? Business calls, Ruby said quickly. I just mentioned that you've been working late hours with your art contacts. Yes, the Russian art market never sleeps, Natasha said with a light laugh. I hope I haven't been keeping anyone awake. Not at all, Mrs. Natasha, Ruby said, but she was studying every word and gesture. After Natasha went back upstairs, Marcus turned to Ruby. Did you see how she reacted when I mentioned the phone calls? She was very calm. Too calm. Most people would ask more questions or seem curious about what someone overheard. Marcus ran his hands through his hair. This is crazy. I'm starting to doubt my own wife because of something my housekeeper told me. Mr. Marcus, I understand how hard this is, but will you do something for me? What? Tonight, when she makes her next call, will you listen with me? You need to hear it yourself. Marcus was quiet for a moment. If I do this and you're wrong, it could destroy my marriage. And if I'm right and you don't do this, it could destroy much more than that. Marcus looked out the window toward his company building in the distance. Everything he had worked for was about to come together in 4 days. The thought that someone he loved might be working to destroy it was almost too much to bear. All right, Ruby. Tonight we listen together. But if you're wrong about this, we never speak of it again. Deal, Ruby said. But deep in her heart, she knew she wasn't wrong. Her years of training had taught her to recognize enemies even when they shared your bed. That evening, Marcus couldn't concentrate on anything. He kept looking at Natasha during dinner, searching for signs that something was wrong. She seemed normal, talking about her day and asking about his work. But now every word sounded different to his ears. The launch is in 3 days, Natasha said, cutting her steak. You must be so excited. Nervous, mostly, Marcus replied. 5 years of work comes down to one moment. What happens if it doesn't work? Marcus paused with his fork halfway to his mouth. What do you mean? I mean, what if there's a technical problem? What if something goes wrong with the equipment? Ruby, who was serving dessert, felt her stomach tighten. Why was Natasha asking about equipment failure? We've tested everything 100 times, Marcus said. The only way it could fail is if someone deliberately sabotaged it. Natasha's smile never changed. Well, I'm sure everything will be perfect. Later that night, Marcus waited in his study while Ruby stayed in the kitchen. They had agreed that Ruby would signal him if she heard Natasha making another call. At 11:30, Ruby knocked softly on his door. She's in the library, Ruby whispered. The call just started. Marcus followed Ruby down the hallway. His heart was beating so loud he was sure Natasha would hear it. They stopped outside the library door, which was slightly open just like before. Natasha's voice came through clearly, speaking in what sounded like Russian. But as Marcus listened, Ruby leaned close to his ear. Listen to the rhythm, Ruby whispered. Russian doesn't flow like that. The word order is wrong. Marcus strained to hear. Ruby was right. Even though he didn't speak Russian, something about the language sounded off. The electromagnetic device is in position, Natasha was saying. Tuesday at 11:45, 20 minutes before launch. The pulse will destroy the main transmitter and make it look like an equipment failure. Marcus felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. Ruby squeezed his arm. Humans are close to breakthrough, Natasha continued. If they succeed in faster-than-light communication, they will contact others. The Council fears what humans might become once they coordinate across space. Ruby and Marcus looked at each other. What council? And what did she mean by what humans might become? Yes, I understand the consequences, Natasha said. But my identity is secure. Marcus suspects nothing. After the launch fails, I will comfort him and suggest he take a break from space technology. Maybe focus on Earth-based projects instead. The call ended. Marcus and Ruby hurried back to his study before Natasha could catch them. She's going to destroy everything, Marcus said, his voice shaking. My own wife is going to sabotage 5 years of work. Mr. Marcus, there's something else. Did you notice how she talked about humans? Like she wasn't one of them? Marcus sat down heavily in his chair. What are you saying? I've been thinking about this all day. Her language patterns, the way she moves, some of the things she's said over the years. What if Natasha isn't who we think she is? Ruby, you're scaring me. What do you mean? Ruby pulled out her old laptop from her bag. I still have access to some government databases. Can I run a background check on your wife? Marcus stared at her. You want to investigate Natasha? We need to know who we're dealing with. If she's working with foreign agents or terrorists, we need to understand the threat. Marcus nodded slowly. Do it. Ruby's fingers flew over the keyboard. Years of intelligence training came back to her as she accessed secure databases and cross-referenced information. Marcus, come look at this, Ruby said after 20 minutes. Marcus leaned over her shoulder to see the screen. Natasha Volkov, the identity she used when you met her, only existed for 6 months before she appeared at that technology conference in Moscow. Before that, there's no record of her anywhere. That's impossible. She showed me pictures of her childhood, talked about her family. Ruby pulled up more files. The pictures exist, but they're not of her. Look at this. Ruby showed him facial recognition results. The woman in the childhood photos is actually a Russian model who died in a car accident in 2018. Marcus felt sick. So who is she? Ruby kept searching. There's more. Look at her medical records from your insurance company. The medical scans appeared on screen, and Ruby pointed to several details. Bone density is 30% higher than normal humans. Her reflexes test at twice normal speed. And look at this eye scan. The detailed scan of Natasha's eyes showed unusual patterns that didn't match normal human iris structure. What does this mean? Marcus asked. Ruby was quiet for a long moment. In intelligence work, we sometimes heard rumors. Stories about people who weren't quite right. Perfect reflexes, unusual strength, too perfect memory. Most agents thought it was just stories, but some of us wondered. Wondered about what? Whether some of the people we were tracking might not be entirely human. Marcus laughed, but it sounded forced. Ruby, you're talking about aliens or something crazy like that. Am I? Think about what she said on the phone. She talked about humans like she wasn't one. She mentioned a council that fears what humans might become. She said humans are close to a breakthrough that would let them contact others. Marcus sat down again. His whole world was spinning. You think my wife is an alien? Ruby showed him more data on the screen. I think your wife is part of something bigger. Something that's been watching humanity and doesn't want us to advance too far into space. But why marry me? Why spend 5 years pretending to love me? Because you're building the first faster-than-light communication system. If it works, humans could talk to anyone, anywhere in the galaxy instantly. Maybe there are others out there, and someone doesn't want us to find them. Marcus stared at the evidence on the screen. Medical scans that showed impossible results. A background that was completely fake, and the memory of Natasha's voice talking about stopping humans from reaching beyond their system. If this is true, Marcus said slowly, then the launch isn't just about my company. It's about humanity's future in space. Ruby nodded. And someone is willing to go to great lengths to stop it. Just then, they heard footsteps in the hallway. Ruby quickly closed the laptop as Natasha appeared in the doorway. Marcus, darling, what are you doing up so late? You need rest before the big day. Marcus looked at his wife's perfect face and wondered if he had ever really known her at all. Just going over final details. I'll be up soon. Natasha smiled and kissed his forehead. Don't work too hard. I want you to enjoy your success. After she left, Marcus turned to Ruby. What do we do now? We stop her, Ruby said. And we make sure that launch happens, no matter what it costs. Marcus nodded. For the first time in his life, he understood that his work was about more than just business or science. It was about humanity's right to reach for the stars even if someone was trying to keep them trapped on Earth. The next morning, Ruby made phone calls to her old contacts while Marcus went to work. She needed to know if other people had discovered similar problems. Her first call was to Colonel James Carter, who had been her commanding officer during her intelligence years. Ruby Washington, I haven't heard from you in ages, Carter said when he answered. What brings you out of retirement? Jim, I need to ask you something, and it's going to sound crazy. Have you heard any reports about people who aren't quite normal? People with fake backgrounds and unusual physical abilities? There was a long pause. Ruby, are you in some kind of trouble? Maybe. I think I've found something big, and I need to know if others have seen the same thing. Carter's voice became serious. Where are you calling from? A secure line, Jim, please. This is important. There have been some reports over the past few years. People in high positions, especially those working on space technology or advanced communications. Some had backgrounds that didn't check out. When we dug deeper, Ruby felt her heart race. What happened to them? Most disappeared before we could investigate fully. A few had accidents. But Ruby, the strangest thing was their medical records. Bone density, reaction times, brain activity patterns that were outside normal human ranges. How many cases? At least 20 that we know of. All of them were close to people working on space projects, satellite systems, or communication technology. We started calling it the space program infiltration theory, but nobody took it seriously. Ruby told Carter about Natasha and what she had discovered. When she finished, Carter was quiet for a long time. Ruby, if what you're saying is true, this isn't just about your boss's wife. This could be a coordinated effort to control human space development. That's what I'm afraid of. Jim, can you check if there have been any mysterious equipment failures in other space programs recently? I'll make some calls and get back to you within the hour. Ruby hung up and immediately called Dr. Lisa Park, a scientist she had worked with on technology security projects. Lisa now worked for NASA. Lisa, it's Ruby Washington. I need a favor. Ruby, how are you? I heard you left the service and disappeared. I did. But something has come up. Lisa, have there been any unexplained problems with space communication projects lately? Equipment failures, Sabotage? Anything unusual? Lisa's voice changed. Ruby, that's a strange question. Why are you asking? I can't explain everything right now, but I think someone might be deliberately targeting space technology companies. There have been some incidents. 3 major satellite companies have had mysterious equipment failures in the past 2 years, always right before major launches or tests. The failures looked like technical problems, but some of us suspected sabotage. Ruby felt sick. What kind of companies? All of them were working on advanced communication systems. Long-range satellite networks, deep space communication arrays, that kind of thing. Lisa, I need you to do something for me. Can you check if any of the key people at those companies had spouses or partners with unusual backgrounds? People who appeared in their lives shortly before the failures? Ruby, you're scaring me. What's this about? I think there's a pattern, and I think more failures are planned. Can you check? I'll see what I can find and call you back. Ruby's phone rang 30 minutes later. It was Carter. Ruby, you were right to be worried. I made calls to intelligence, contacts around the world. Britain, France, Germany, Japan, India. They've all had similar cases. Similar how? People with fake identities getting close to space technology leaders. Always attractive, always appeared suddenly, always perfectly. Supportive of their partner's work until right before major breakthroughs. Ruby sat down hard. How many people are we talking about? At least 50 cases worldwide over the past 10 years. And Ruby, here's the scary part. In every case where the person was investigated, they had the same unusual medical markers. Higher bone density, faster reflexes, brain patterns that didn't match normal humans. What happened to the space projects they were connected to? Failed. Every single one. Equipment problems, funding issues, key personnel leaving suddenly. It's like someone has been systematically preventing humans from developing advanced space communication technology. Dr. Park called back an hour later with more bad news. Ruby, I found the pattern you were looking for. All 3 companies that had equipment failures had key executives who had married or partnered with people in the 2 years before the failures. And when I checked deeper, all of those partners had backgrounds that were thin or fake. Are any of those partners still around? That's the strange part. Right after the failures, most of them left. Divorces, sudden moves, family emergencies, they all disappeared. Ruby realized the scope of what they were dealing with. This wasn't just about Marcus and Natasha. This was a coordinated plan to keep humanity from advancing into space. She called Marcus at his office. Mr. Marcus, we need to talk. Can you come home? Ruby, I'm in the middle of final preparations. The launch is tomorrow. This can't wait. What I've found changes everything. An hour later, Marcus sat in his kitchen listening to Ruby explain what she had learned. His face got paler with each detail. So you're telling me this is happening all over the world? Marcus asked. At least 50 cases in 10 years. Every major space communication project has been sabotaged by people who got close to the project, leaders. But why? If they're really not human, why do they care about our space technology? Ruby had been thinking about this. What if there are others out there? Other intelligent species in space? And what if they don't want humans to join them? You think they see us as a threat? Think about it, Mr. Marcus. Humans are aggressive, creative, and adapt quickly. We explore, we expand, we take risks. Maybe that scares species that have been comfortable with the way things are. Marcus walked to the window and looked out at the sky. So they've been infiltrating our society to keep us trapped on Earth. It makes sense. Instead of attacking us directly, they send agents to quietly sabotage our progress, make it look like technical failures or human mistakes. But tomorrow's launch could change everything. Ruby nodded. If your communication array works, humans could talk to anyone in space instantly. We could coordinate between planets, contact other species, maybe even find allies. And they can't let that happen. Which means Natasha will do everything possible to stop tomorrow's launch. Marcus turned back to Ruby. We have to protect the array. But it's not just about my company anymore. No, it's about humanity's future. This launch could be our first real step toward joining the galaxy as equals instead of prisoners. Marcus made a decision. Ruby, I'm going to need your help. All of your skills from your intelligence days. What do you want me to do? Help me. Turn the tables. Instead of just stopping Natasha, let's use her to find out who she's really working for and how many others are out there. Ruby smiled for the first time in days. Now you're thinking like an intelligence officer. Tomorrow isn't just about launching a communication system, Marcus said. It's about announcing to the galaxy that humanity is ready to take its place among the stars, whether anyone likes it or not. Marcus and Ruby worked through the night preparing their plan. They had less than 18 hours before the launch, and they needed to be smarter than their enemies. We can't just stop Natasha, Marcus said as he drew diagrams on a whiteboard. We need to use her to expose the whole network. Ruby studied the building plans of Hayes Industries. If she planted an electromagnetic device like she mentioned, it has to be near the main transmitter. But we need to let her think she's succeeding. What do you mean? We fake the sabotage, make it look like her device worked, but actually use backup systems to complete the launch. While she's reporting success to her controllers, we track all her communications. Marcus smiled. And record everything for evidence. Better than that. I have an idea that could expose every infiltrator on the planet. Ruby pulled out her laptop and showed Marcus some technical diagrams. You said your communication array uses quantum entanglement technology, right? Yes, for faster-than-light transmission. Why? What if we modify it to do more than just send messages? What if we could use it to scan for unusual brain patterns across large distances? Marcus stared at her. You want to turn my communication system into a detection device? Think about it. All these infiltrators have similar brain activity patterns that are different from humans. If we can broadcast a quantum scan during the test, we might be able to identify every non-human within a 1,000-mile radius. That's brilliant, but also incredibly dangerous. If they realize what we're doing, they'll have to reveal themselves to stop us. Either way, we expose them. Marcus made modifications to the array while Ruby coordinated with her intelligence contacts. Colonel Carter agreed to have military units standing by at locations where they suspected infiltrators might be found. The morning of the launch, Natasha acted perfectly normal. She made Marcus breakfast and wished him luck, kissing him goodbye like a loving wife. I'll be watching the launch from home, she said. I'm so proud of you. Marcus looked into her eyes, wondering how he had never noticed how cold they were. Thank you, darling. This day will change everything. After Marcus left, Ruby watched Natasha through hidden cameras Marcus had installed the night before. At 10:30, exactly 1 hour before launch, Natasha made a phone call. Phase 1 is complete, Natasha said in her strange language. The device will activate in 70 minutes. The human project will fail as planned. Ruby smiled and pressed a button on her control panel. Instead of English or Russian coming through the speakers, Natasha's words were automatically translated and broadcast to intelligence agencies around the world. Phase 2 is ready, Natasha continued. Once this launch fails, human space communication development will be set back by decades. The species will remain isolated as the Council requires. At Hayes Industries, Marcus stood in the control room surrounded by his team. Only he and Ruby knew what was really happening. T-minus 60 minutes to launch, announced the mission director. Marcus pressed a hidden button that activated the quantum scanning modifications Ruby had suggested. If there were any non-human infiltrators in the area, the array would find them. At 11:45, exactly when Natasha had planned, alarms started going off in the control room. Sir, we're detecting an electromagnetic interference with the main transmitter, reported the chief engineer. How bad is it? Marcus asked, pretending to be surprised. The signal is completely blocked. We can't launch with this level of interference. Marcus had trained his team well. They switched to the backup systems he had secretly prepared, while making it look like they were trying to fix the main transmitter. At Natasha's house, Ruby watched through the cameras as Natasha smiled and made another call. Success, Natasha reported. The human launch has failed. Their communication system is non-functional. But at Hayes Industries, Marcus was quietly bringing the real array online using hidden systems. T-minus 5 minutes to actual launch, Marcus whispered into his secure radio to Ruby. Quantum scanners are active. Ruby replied. I'm getting readings of unusual brain patterns at 17 locations across the country. Are your contacts ready? Colonel Carter has teams moving to every location now. At exactly noon, Marcus activated the faster-than-light communication array. Instead of just sending a simple test message, the system broadcast Ruby's quantum scanning technology across the planet. The results were immediate and shocking. The modified array detected over 200 individuals worldwide with brain patterns that didn't match normal humans. All of them were in positions close to space technology companies, government agencies, or military installations. But the most surprising discovery came when the array's deep space scanner activated. As it reached out beyond Earth's solar system, it detected response signals from multiple sources in space. Ruby, are you seeing this? Marcus called over the radio. The array is receiving incoming messages from 12 different locations in space. It looks like there are multiple species out there and they've all been trying to contact Earth for years. On her screen, Ruby watched translated messages appearing from across the galaxy. Most of them were friendly greetings from species that had been wondering why Earth never responded to their communications. But one message was different. It came from a species that called themselves the Dominion Council. Attention Earth species, the message read. You have been classified as unsuitable for galactic contact due to aggressive tendencies. Cease all faster-than-light communication attempts or face containment measures. Marcus realized they had found the enemy. Ruby, patch me through to the U. Dominion Council. Marcus, are you sure about this? It's time for humanity to speak for itself. Marcus activated the communication array's response system and sent a message back to the Dominion Council. This is Marcus Hayes, speaking for the human species of Earth. We reject your authority to classify us as unsuitable. We have discovered your infiltration agents on our planet and consider their actions an act of war. Humanity claims its right to join the galactic community as equals. The response came back immediately. Human Hayes, you do not understand the consequences of galactic contact. Your species is too unpredictable. Return to your isolation. No, Marcus replied. Humanity moves forward, not backward. We're coming to the stars whether you approve or not. At that moment, alerts started coming, and from around the world. Colonel Carter's voice crackled over Ruby's radio. Ruby, the infiltrators are panicking. We're getting reports of non-humans trying to flee their positions worldwide. Some are surrendering. Others are fighting back. Ruby watched her screens as Natasha suddenly clutched her head and screamed. The quantum scanning system was causing some kind of feedback in her non-human brain. Marcus, the scanning system is affecting them physically. They can't hide anymore. Across the planet, over 200 infiltrators were simultaneously exposed as their disguises failed, and their true forms became visible to the quantum scans. But Marcus wasn't finished. He activated the array's final function, broadcasting a message not just to the Dominion Council, but to every intelligent species within 1,000 light years. This is humanity. His voice carried across space faster than light itself. We are here, we are ready, and we are not afraid. Anyone who wants to be our friend is welcome. Anyone who wants to be our enemy should remember that humans don't give up easily. Ruby smiled as responses started pouring in from dozens of species across the galaxy. Most were excited to finally hear from Earth. Some offered friendship, others trade. Still others wanted to share knowledge. The Dominion Council sent one final message. You have made a grave mistake, humans. This is not over. Maybe not, Marcus replied. But it's a good start. Within hours of the launch, everything changed. Reports flooded in from around the world as alien infiltrators were captured or exposed. The quantum scanning technology had worked perfectly, revealing beings who had hidden among humans for decades. Ruby coordinated with intelligence agencies across 6 continents, while Marcus worked with world leaders who were suddenly very interested in his communication array. The President of the United States called personally to congratulate him and ask for a full briefing. At the Hayes house, Natasha was no longer pretending to be human. The quantum scan had damaged whatever technology allowed her to maintain her disguise. Her skin had turned a pale blue color and her eyes now glowed with a soft silver light. You have doomed your species, she told Ruby when military personnel came to arrest her. The Dominion Council controls 40 star systems. Humans are just one small planet. Maybe, Ruby replied, putting handcuffs on the alien. But humans don't stay small for long. Colonel Carter arrived that evening with a full report. Ruby, this is bigger than we imagined. We've captured over 200 infiltrators worldwide. Every major space program, defense contractor, and technology company had at least one. What are they telling you during questioning? Most won't talk, but a few are cooperating. They've been here for over 50 years, gradually working their way into positions where they could control human technological development. Marcus joined them in his study, looking exhausted but excited. The communication array is working beyond our wildest dreams. We're receiving messages from 47 different species across the galaxy. What are they saying? Ruby asked. Most are welcoming us to what they call the galactic community. Apparently, the Dominion Council has been telling everyone that Earth was a dead planet with no intelligent life. Carter pulled out a tablet showing translated messages. Look at this one from a species called the Zephyrians. They say they've been trying to contact Earth for over a century, but their messages never got through. The infiltrators were blocking incoming communications, Marcus realized. They weren't just stopping us from sending messages out, they were preventing us from receiving messages coming in. Ruby studied the data. How many species are in this galactic community? Over 300 that we know of so far. And Ruby, most of them are excited to meet humans. They want to trade with us, share technology, even visit Earth. What about the Dominion Council? Marcus's expression became serious. They're not happy. They've sent several threatening messages, demanding that we shut down the communication array and return to isolation. And your response? I told them that humanity doesn't take orders from aliens who have been lying to us for decades. Over the next few days, the world changed rapidly. Governments worked together to process the captured infiltrators and decode the alien technology they had left behind. The devices were incredibly advanced, far beyond current human technology. Dr. Lisa Park flew in from NASA to examine Natasha's communication equipment. Marcus, this technology is centuries ahead of ours. If we can understand how it works, we could advance human space travel by hundreds of years. That's exactly what the Dominion Council was afraid of, Ruby said. They knew that once humans got access to advanced technology, we'd become competitors instead of prisoners. The breakthrough came when engineers discovered that the alien devices used a form of quantum manipulation that could be reverse engineered. Within a week, human scientists were building their own versions of faster-than-light communication systems. But the real surprise came when friendly alien species began offering to help. The Zephyrians sent detailed technical specifications for improving the communication array. A species called the Builders offered to teach humans how to construct space stations using advanced materials. Others shared star maps, energy technologies, and scientific knowledge. It's like the galaxy has been waiting for us to join them, Marcus told Ruby as they watched construction begin on Earth's first interstellar communication network. All this time, we thought we were alone, but we were just being kept isolated. The Dominion Council made one last attempt to stop humanity's progress. They sent a fleet of ships toward Earth, demanding that humans surrender their new technology and accept Dominion control. But the galaxy had already chosen sides. Over 50 species sent their own ships to Earth's defense, not because they had to, but because they wanted to protect humanity's right to freedom. The standoff lasted 3 days. Dominion ships surrounded Earth, while Allied vessels from across the galaxy formed a protective barrier around the planet. It was the largest gathering of spaceships in galactic history. Marcus stood in the new Global Communication Center, speaking directly to the Dominion Council Fleet Commander. Commander, you have 2 choices, Marcus said calmly. You can leave peacefully and accept that humanity is now part of the galactic community, or you can fight a war against half the galaxy. The Dominion commander's response was filled with anger. Humans are too dangerous to be allowed freedom in space. You are aggressive, unpredictable, and expand too quickly. You're right, Marcus replied, surprising everyone. We are aggressive when someone tries to control us. We are unpredictable because we think for ourselves. And we do expand quickly because we're not afraid to explore new places and try new things. Ruby smiled as she listened to Marcus continue. But those same traits make us loyal friends and reliable allies. Ask any of the species here defending us. They're not protecting us because they fear us. They're protecting us because they respect us. One by one, representatives from the allied species added their voices to the conversation. The Zephyrians spoke about human creativity and problem-solving abilities. The builders praised human determination and work ethic. Others mentioned human compassion and willingness to help those in need. Finally, even some ships in the Dominion fleet began switching sides. The Council had ruled through fear and control for too long, and many species under their authority saw humanity's defiance as inspiration for their own freedom. The Dominion commander realized he was outnumbered and outmaneuvered. This is not over, humans. The galaxy will learn to fear your species. Maybe, Marcus replied. But they'll also learn to respect us, trust us, and work with us. And that's more important than fear. The Dominion fleet retreated, but Marcus knew they would be back eventually. Humanity would have to prove itself worthy of galactic citizenship through actions, not just words. Ruby was offered the position of Earth's first ambassador for alien affairs, responsible for coordinating with the dozens of species that wanted to establish relations with humanity. Are you going to take it? Marcus asked her. I spent 12 years in intelligence, then 8 years cleaning houses. I think it's time to try something new. Marcus laughed. From housekeeper to galactic diplomat, only you could make that career change. Speaking of career changes, what are you going to do now? Marcus looked out the window at the construction of humanity's first interstellar spaceport. Ships from dozens of worlds were already requesting permission to visit Earth. I'm going to build spaceships, Marcus said. Big ones, fast ones, ships that will carry humans to every corner of the galaxy. The Dominion Council won't like that. Good. Let them worry about what humans might do next. We've got exploring to do. Ruby's warning about a phone call had saved more than just Marcus's company. It had saved humanity's future among the stars. And as the first human ships prepared for interstellar travel, one thing was clear. The galaxy would never be the same again.